Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? Welcome. Let's just say that it took some time for me to get to this point to really talk about this series with the Sixers and the Celtics because there are a lot of things out there that really got under my skin and really left a bad taste in my mouth. So let's just get into this. Game 7, the Sixers were embarrassed. They were embarrassed on a scale that I was not expecting, and I was just horrified as I was looking at the game. The score wound up being 88-112. Boston Celtics just took over in the third quarter. The Sixers couldn't really do nothing. And there was a number of things that was highlighted in that game that I have to say that was very troubling. And it's something that the Sixers are going to have to address in the future. And it's just you can't get away with this. I mean, the Sixers weren't able to just the Sixers weren't able to stay close in the third quarter. At one point, Boston went on a 21-5 run. It was ugly. The Sixers couldn't make any type of shots. Boston was getting any and everything that they want. Jason Tatum was hot. And it just goes to show how hard it is to win a closeout game, a game 7 on somebody else's floor. When you have when you're up 3-2 going into your home game, you need to win that game. There are some teams that were able to do it. The Sixers wasn't one of those teams that was able to do it. And it was just frustrating, and words cannot describe. I'm still really annoyed about it. I would like to not talk about it. Since this is something I want to go into in terms of podcasting and talking about the Sixers, this is something I'm going to have to do. Boston pretty much just outplayed the Sixers. They outplayed the Sixers in a way that you got to see the difference in terms of players. You got to see the difference in terms of coaching, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You got to see the difference in terms of when it comes to Game 7. Game 7 depends on your stars. Your stars are the ones that's supposed to carry this. Yes, you'll have some bench players that'll come and play. Your stars are the ones that have to pull it through. And it boiled down to Jason Tatum scoring 51. And pretty much Joel Embiid and James Harden couldn't do anything. And it's just that simple. Tatum and Brown took over the game, and Joel Embiid struggled and disappeared. And so a lot of things fell apart. A lot of things that come to fruition when it came to that. I knew Doc was going to get fired. There was no way Doc Rivers was going to be able to survive this. Not the way that team played. The things that I didn't understand when it came to that game was they pretty much made it easy for the Celtics when the Celtics was on defense. The Sixers' game plan all year was Joe at the elbow, at the foul line, pick and roll, isolation, James Harden, isolation, dribble, and whatever you can get from there. If he gets a double team, pass around to the open three. The problem with that, there was no ball movement. There was no player movement. There was no ball movement. It just pretty much you have 4 guys hanging around the 3-point line. And let's just be honest here. When it comes to the Sixers, teams are going to play zone. Joel Embiid is not going to get single coverage. There are times when I see Jokic play. Jokic is getting a lot of single coverage. There's also ball movement. And those glaring weaknesses was one of the reasons why the Sixers lost. Another glaring weakness was pretty much that the Sixers just, I have to say that the spotlight was too big. The inexperience of that moment was just, I can probably say, was too much for them. It's sad to say. Then again, it's not surprising. When you there's normally a process when it comes to teams, and they'll go get into the playoffs, they'll win a round or two, but there's always a team that's in their way that they have to overcome. The Sixers have to overcome Boston. Boston is in their head. And it was something that I was looking at the interview with JJ Redick and Draymond. And Draymond was saying that when it came to the Clippers, we punched y'all in the mouth because JJ Redick was a former Clippers playing under Doc. And JJ said that, I mean, not JJ, Draymond said, when we punch y'all in the mouth, we knew y'all weren't going to respond. And once we saw that, we realized that. And you can pretty much say when it comes to the Sixers and the Celtics knows if we punch the Sixers in the mouth, the Sixers are not going to respond. And that's pretty much what happened. James Harden is very inconsistent. Very inconsistent. He had good games. Game one, I think, 5. He had games where they were able, yes, game 1, game 5, because he struggled in game 2, 3, and 7. Game 7 is the game you really have to show up. And the amount of shots that James Harden took in game 7 was 11. He was shooting 23%, and he shot 23% from 3. He played 40 minutes. Joel Embiid was 5 for 12. 33% from 3, 41% from the field. This is a game. This is money time. This is where you make your bones. This is where you make your contract. This is where you sit there and show people I am worth my money. And I have to say that James Harden has shown he has shown in his history that when it comes down to it, and it seems like the spotlight gets too big, and he freezes. In that third quarter, you literally saw the air get taken out of that team. Just like in Game 6 when Jason Tatum hit that 3. You saw Joel Embiid and you saw you saw Joel Embiid and you saw James Harden just melt. All the air was just sucked out of the room. That 3 in Game 6 took their heart. And once that third quarter hit in Game 7 and they got rolling, all those past experiences come to play, and you're sitting there like, now, here we go again. And for me, it's sad because Joe is pretty much taking the brunt of a team. For his first number of years, the team wasn't built around him. The team was built around Ben Simmons, and Joe had to accommodate Ben Simmons. This is only the second season that Joe Embiid had a team built around him, and they got as far as they could. The issue with this, though, I don't know. I really don't know if they didn't have enough play. I don't know if they didn't have all the players that they need. Because Rivers has an issue what a lot of NBA coaches have. A lot of NBA coaches, they prefer veterans. They don't want to play rookies. Even when the veteran is at the end of his career and just pretty much in name only on the things that they used to do, that coach still feels comfortable with those veterans. And the reason why I'm saying this in regards to Doc Rivers, because to me, when it comes to Doc Rivers has the most blown losing game 7s. He get his teams there, but there's something to be said that when they're there, they don't get to they can't close it. They can't close it out. You look at this game 7, I don't really know what more I can sit there and say, because it's like, the one thing that helped him in terms of Game 5 to get to Game 6 was the fact that he played Daniel House Jr. And Daniel House Jr. came in, gave you some good defense, was able to score off the defense, made the team more quick, more athletic. Because one of the issues that the Sixers have, Tobias Harris, Niang, there's certain individuals, and James Harden, they aren't athletic. They're not athletic at all. And when you're playing against Boston, Boston have a number of athletic individuals, and they have a number of two-way individuals. At some point, you have to sit there and just like, look, I have to match speed with speed. And putting in, and this happened in the Brooklyn series. In the Brooklyn series, there was Melton, Maxey, Paul Reed, James Harden, and it was Korkmaz. I'm sorry, not Korkmaz. It was Niang, but I think at one point it was Tobias Harris. There was more speed out on the court, and they were able to sit there and give Brooklyn some problems, just like in Game 5 in Boston. They were able to give the Sixers some problems to the point that they were able to stop the bench. Then you get to Game 6, he didn't do it as much. You get to Game 7, he didn't do it as much. He stuck out with PJ Tucker. It's some points where you got to sit there and say, sorry, PJ, you got to sit on the bench. You're not really helping the situation. One of the because it wasn't the defense. The defense, well, up until Game 7, the defense did what it could. Game 6 was the offense that failed. Game 7, yes, the defense fell apart in the third period. But then by that time, once Boston went on that run and went to double digits, the game was over. The Sixers pretty much quit. Joel Embiid and James Harden pretty much quit. It's just a lot needs to be done. And so Sixers don't have any draft picks, so they're going to have to see in terms of undrafted and really have to pick people for what they're trying to do. The Sixers have to get more athletic on the wings. They have to.